Okay, so we have this project internally called Check 6. Essentially, it is to measure user statistics and how good their v6 connectivity is and how good their v6 endpoint is as far as the vulnerabilities that are out there for user brokenness. And it does require coding, so that's why we have software engineers that are working on this project. And it is an iterative process. So you measure data, and you look at the data and you think, well, what are all the things that can happen? And then I make a couple more phone calls to folks like Lorenzo saying that, like, does this data make sense to you? Have you run into this before? And then, we get suggestions like, well, you can measure this and compare it to this. So it's constantly iterative. So we run the tests, for a week. We look at the data. We're not happy with the data. We add code. We get new data. We reanalyze it. So it's very iterative. It can be very tedious. Last week, I presented some data that I was generating last week. And it can take, quite a bit of time because we're talking about millions and millions of samples. And there's a lot of weird clients out there. For some reason, not everybody uses, I guess, your standard browser, but there's some very strange data that gets reported that you wouldn't expect. And the numbers are very tiny. User brokenness seems to be, very small. And there's a lot of noise in the data. And it's very hard to say this user is truly broken for a majority of the broken users. There's a lot of gray area where users are reporting strange data and you think they could be broken, but there's other explanations you can think of that, maybe why their test results are leaning a certain way. But in any case, we do believe the data will be useful for World IPv6 Day. And if you're a Facebook user and you have an affected endpoint, we hope to, make some type of nice little rooster story, we call it. Some people call it a toast, where a message may come up and say, hey, check your IPv6 brokenness because World IPv6 Day is in 3 days. And it's maybe because all your data is pointing to the fact that you could be broken.